Hello everyone. Today we have another new guest. He is from South Africa. He is a very famous trainer on leadership. He will discuss with us about thinking process, how we can change our thought process and everything. And from the beginnings of our World Talent Economy Forum, you find that we are working with different policy, different positive things, and different technological aspect. And everywhere we find most important thing is mindset. So he is the key player. He know how to change your mind and how to set up your mindset and how you can change your think process and everything. He is a famous trainer on leadership, and today he will discuss about the leaderships and the change process and thinking process and many interesting things. So hello, Mr. Robert, how are you?
Salam, Sarif, and thank you very much for inviting me onto your platform. It's a real pleasure, and I am amazing but improving every time. So thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you. I know you have a lot of engagement with training corporations and many leadership activities. Can you please introduce yourself with your business and with your activities with our audience? Yes.
Yes, thank you very much for that opportunity. And my name is Jan Robberts. Originally, I am from the Netherlands, and then we emigrated to Scotland in the late 70s. And I've now spent the last 5.5 years mostly in South Africa. And I am in South Africa, where I started a business with my partner, who's from here, the Key Leadership Institute. And that is a training company where we provide leadership solutions, communication, team building, youth development, behavior analysis consulting using DISC, and a few other things, including values-based leadership, which is an amazing process that is transforming entire countries. I'm also the founder of JR Speakers Club, where we help people find their voices at any age to be able to speak confidently in front of their community, whatever that looks like. And, we are also involved in entrepreneurial programs. And as I said to you as well already, we have the pleasure as well as of being strategic partners in Bangladesh with the CKH network, where we are working together to bring entrepreneurship programs to the youth. So there is a lot of areas we work on, and I love what I do. So that's all I need to say about me, and that's more than enough. But it's a passion for me to be influencing people, and as a global influencer, I get a much further reach now because of the technology we have available to ourselves.
Yes, I just want to know what the present condition in South Africa and what the conditions of COVID and how things are moving right now.
Yes, thank you. Now in South Africa at the moment, the cases, the amount of cases coming in rises drastically every day, because we have now anything between 10 and 13, 14,000 new cases every day. When the lockdown first started, we had, I think, 1,500 cases. And now, 4 months later, we have around about 350,000 cases. I mean, any deaths are too many. One death is too many. But fortunately, when we compare it to some of the Western world, our death rate here is very low at just about 5,000 at the moment. So we are fortunate like that. But I mean, there's 5 levels of lockdown, and level 5 has now been eased off, and we're now into level 3, where some businesses are working again and some shops are opening, necessary shops. But of course, it's of great concern that the amount of cases rises so much every day yet. And here in the province, in Gauteng, which is the Johannesburg area, that's the most densely populated province, with 15.5 million out of the 55, 60 million people in one province out of all of them. And it is of course of concern to many people, and also because there is a lot of poverty here. See, something that many people, they're looking at the death rate and how many cases there are, but what they don't talk about is, which is globally, I think, an equally big problem, is the misery this is causing at the moment, financially and economically in the country. I mean, there's people at the moment, they already went hungry before, but they're definitely going hungry now. So people are starving, people are hungry, people are starting to commit suicide in a much higher rate now, because they don't see a way out of this misery. So there is a much bigger picture here, but we need to really start being more empathetic and more compassionate about the people who are really struggling. I mean, everybody complains about losing their job and all that kind of stuff, but most people have still got a roof over their head and have got food in their stomach. But there is a growing amount of people who are at the other end who have no real roof over their head, and their stomachs are empty, and there's people just dying because of starvation. And that's something that we don't really look at, but it's of great concern. And the sooner there is some kind of solution to this uh, uh, uncharted territory and the challenging times we have. But as I said as well, that there is where there is negativity, there is also positivity, and we need to look at the opportunities we have, how we can improve ourselves to make sure that we move forward in a positive way.
Mhm, mhm. Yes, this is very interesting. And present situations in COVID-19 era, like many people has many depression. Even many famous people even died. They lose their business. Many negative things actually happening. So you are one of the professional man who is actually set up the mind, who help people and organizations to think how they can change their mindset and many more things. What's the key points you want to share with us about this COVID-19 situation? How we can train our mind? How we can change our thinking process?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not just at COVID times, because the very young people maybe have never experienced something like this. But I mean, they showed us a person, if he was born in 1900 and by the time he was 75, the things they went through. Now, First World War, pandemic, Second World War, um, all kinds of disasters around the world that happened in their lifetime. So this is not something new. But I mean, I think what we really need to look at, how can we become not necessarily always more positive, but more optimistic. And positive is something that you can't always be when things happen to you, but you can become more optimistic and have hope for the future. Because without the hope, people perish, and without when there is hope in the future, there is power in the present. And how can we get that now? Taking you back a little bit, when I was younger, as a little kid, I got bullied as a kid, and then because I was overweight and under height, so I was quite a big young man. And then at age 12, I grew to 6'4", the height I am now. Dutch people are always the tallest nation in the world. By age 12, I grew this way. But what happened afterwards? The bullying stopped, but the bullying here carried on, and it's a very similar situation that unless you start recognizing and controlling what is really going on inside of you, and the reasons why, it is very difficult to even change it. And Les Brown eventually interviewed me about this as well, because by the age of 17, I had enough. I'd had an ulcer by the age of 16, which young kids never got. Now maybe a bit more so with all the stresses, but it was always successful people who were always busy and always under stress, and they got ulcers, not young people. So at 17, I drew a line in the sand and I said, I cannot live the rest of my life like this. So I started to really thinking how I could improve my life. And when you close one door, usually another one opens. And somebody handed me my first personal development book. It was called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's an old book, but very, very good. And the title sometimes a bit unfortunate for people, but it really got me on a journey of personal development from the age 17, and this is still ongoing now, because personal development is not a one-day thing; it's an everyday thing. So then people ask, how exactly what you're saying. What can we do to change this, to change our mindset? Because if we really start to look at it, there is a saying, and we in our values-based leadership, it's always in every value that we touch on. It says thoughts become words, words become actions, actions become habits, and habits become your destiny. So then it makes sense that we start here in our thoughts, because everything we see around the world begins with a thought, including our negativity or our positivity. And whether we believe it or not, everything is a choice. So if we then say, now how can we change that? Well, there is things that we need to do, because we have filled our lives with negativity. And there was a guy called and I've met him a few times. It was called Charlie Tremendous Jones. Unfortunately, he's passed away now, and his middle name wasn't really tremendous, but everything he said was tremendous. And an amazing gentleman. He's written some books as well about it. But he said, there is three things in your life that will govern the way you live the rest of your life. And it says the first one is the things you hear. The second is the things you read, the books you read. And the third is the people you associate with. Now, I want to go into that just a little bit further, because how many people who are listening today or listening to the recording of this will wake up in the morning to the sound of the news? The first thing they do is switch on the news. People, you're setting yourself up for failure. In as much as and failure is not final either. I mean, you don't die, you don't drown by falling in the puddle, you drown by staying in it. So failure is not final. It's just a part of your journey. And failures are the things that give us experience in life to move forward more informed the next time we try something. But if you already wake up in the morning and you listen to something negative about all for example, the COVID, we know what's going on by now with COVID around the world, but we don't need to listen to everything first thing in the morning and all the other stuff that happens, the deaths and the rapes and all the violence and whatever happens. But now we have a negative mind because we already think how bad things are around the world. That's how we wake up. And we still have to go through the next day experiencing more of this kind of stuff. And then the other equally worst time, if not worst time that we do this is when we go to bed. The last thing we do is we'll have a look at the news to see what's happening just before we go to bed. So now you feel the last thing you think about is what you dream about most, what goes on in here during the night. So now you've got 6 to 8 hours that you actually mull over this. So you'll already wake up tired because you don't get a good night's sleep living on negativity. So you already wake up in a totally negative state. Then you throw the news on again and bang, you get another fill. So these are times you need to change things, but during the day as well. So the things you listen to, so we can listen to, there is so much positivity, even if it's just music. It's better to listen to some inspiring and positive and upbeat music when you wake up and when you go to bed than the other stuff. No, do the news later on in the day and earlier on at night if you need to. And I have not bought a newspaper for more than 35 years. This is my choice. Does that mean that I don't know what goes on around the world? Yes, of course I do. But I don't need to know every little bit every day and read the paper from cover to cover. When I used to read a newspaper, there was the sports pages. I read it from the back where the sports pages were because that was the kind of thing I interested in. I saw the headlines on the front, but I decided to read books. And this is my next point. See, because listening, you can actually listen to something positive. You can watch YouTube videos of inspirational people like Edward Thomas and Les Brown, my friend and mentor Les Brown, Zig Ziglar, Nick Vujicic, hugely inspirational, also part of our youth development. But there is so many things that you can do to become more positive. So the second one is the things you read. Whether it's books you read, what kind of books you're reading, and most people don't even read a book anymore. And the thing is, if you can't read and you don't, it's even worse than those who cannot. So if you read one book a month, that's 12 books a year. That gives you a huge insight, much more so than the vast majority of people. And you don't want to be the same as everybody else. You want to stand out and step up and step out. And if you want to do that, then you need to do things other people don't do, so you can be and do things other people can't. So you read things. Now, read positive material. If you read before going to bed rather than switch on the news, don't read the newspapers. The same thing, but read some positive material. Read an inspiring book. Read something that you can learn from. And the same in the morning. If it's not the radio and you normally pick up the newspaper straight out of the letterbox and read that first thing over a cup of coffee, get something positive to read. There is plenty positive material. We've got on our fingertips, we've got everything there that we can read about that is much more inspirational, that is much more beneficial to our lives than everything else we get. And then the third point is the people we associate with. Now, they say you become like the 5 people you associate with most. So if they are negative, you're most likely a negative person. If they are broke, you're more than likely broke. And these kind of things, that doesn't take anything away from the people you associate with, but sometimes you might have to make a decision if you are around negative people all the time to actually not be around them that often. I don't say you can't just get, decide never to be around them anymore, but at least be less around that environment, because it doesn't do you any good. Because it doesn't matter how positive you are, it's like a drop of water on a stone. The water doesn't burst the stone, but a consistent drop of water on that stone will erode. You look at the gorges, the canyons in the world, like the Grand Canyons and these kind of things. A lot of this has been eroded because water went through there, and gentle water, but the power of it over time. And it's the same about negativity. Over time will erode your mind, and you become negative. And this is why you need to make some decisions, personal decisions. I'll talk a little bit about the personal growth plan later, but at the moment you need to ask yourself, what am I listening to? What am I reading? And who am I associating with? And you might have to make some serious decisions if you want the rest of your life to be better than where you are so far. You cannot change what you have done, but you can certainly. They says you can't rewrite the chapters of your life so far, but today is an empty page. Today is a new page. You can write the next of the rest of the story of your life going forward. And whether you like it or not, this is your choice. Because we all think that we have no choices, because too often we react to situations rather than respond. Now, I do martial arts as well, and we got taught early on, if you react, most of the time you're second, you lose. Because what the difference is reacting to people is where you actually are, you do something because somebody else, you do something after somebody else, or something that happened has infected you from the outside. So then you are, for example, it's a simple thing, but if I called you a name right now, you, even though I might have done it for fun, but you don't like it. Now, I walk past you in the office in the morning, I say something to you which is not nice to you. I maybe even didn't know that it was not nice. It was for fun, which people do, and it's bullying, but they call it fun. But so I said something, and now you sit there, you are really upset with me. And all day you're thinking about, but that at the end of the day, I'm coming past your office again, and I'm going to sort you out, because I'm going to talk, I'm going to have it out with you. And the more you think about it all day, the angrier you get and the more upset. Now, my question would be to you is, who upset you that whole day? And most people will answer me that it is, that person upset me. I says, that person spoiled my whole day. I says, no, they did not. And I said, hold on, how can you even say that? It says, what happened is you let it upset you all day. You reacted, and that person might be doing all kinds of fun things and all kinds of things without even knowing how much upset you are. So I said, because you actually gave your freedom to choose your own attitude away, you actually let that happen. And for that, I think people, if they don't know how that works, read Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. It's not a very thick book, but he was a survivor in the concentration camps, and he actually talked into how he survived, and everybody else around him, all his family members, perished. And he says, there is one thing they can never take away from you: the freedom to choose. Your freedom to choose your own attitude. So by doing this, and here's great proof of that, but by doing this, you have given away that freedom, and you had a miserable day, and it's your fault. So now I say there is another opportunity. So now the same thing happens, and this person says something to you, and you don't understand why. You say, hey, I really didn't like that. So I'm gonna talk to him. I know I'll see him later on again today. I'm gonna talk to him and really ask him what it was all about, and without being angry, because that builds up over the time. So now you put it aside. So I know I'll see him later on today, and then you say, hey, listen, when you walked past me this morning, you said something to me. I really didn't appreciate that. What was your? Oh, I didn't even mean. I'm sorry. And maybe it was an innocent remark, but to you it wasn't. But now you haven't spoiled your whole day. So that's responding. Now you're responding. And that is the big difference. So there is so much that we can do in any situation. And my question, you're talking about COVID. My question to each and every one of your listeners and your viewers is: What have you been doing for the last 3-4 months? Are you going through this period or are you growing through this period? And if you have not done anything to grow in the last 3-4 months, when most people have been sitting at home for a vast amount of time, feeling sorry for themselves and everybody around them, because whatever is happening, then you have wasted the last 3 or 4 months. But the good news is, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the next best time to plant a tree is now. And that means that from today, now you're aware of it. What are you going to do? Do you need to learn a new skill? Do you want to learn a new language? Do you need to complete a project? Do you want to do anything to change your life? Because another thing about this COVID situation is we cannot control what happens around us. We can't always control what happens to us, but we can control what happens within us. So then the question about that is, if you want to ensure, and let's face it, we will be glad that if we wake up tomorrow, it's always a blessing when we wake up in the morning. I say that every morning. I'm blessed and highly favored because I opened my eyes, and there's many people who would have changed that for me. So it's an attitude as well. But the only way that we can be sure that tomorrow will be better for us than today is if we do something to improve ourselves today. That's the only guarantee we've got. We can't say it's their fault that they need to choose. No, we need to help ourselves. And if you take it into leadership, I always say leadership, the first level of leadership is self-leadership. And we're all leaders, by the way. We all lead at different levels. But it begins with self-leadership. And self-leadership is all about self-development. What does your personal growth plan look like? That's a question for everybody. And most people say, well, what's one of them? If you haven't got a personal growth plan, you need to get a personal growth plan, because if you don't want to be in a situation again like you've been for the last 3 months and complaining about how bad everything is, you need to start developing yourself. And while you do that, we'll talk a little bit more about intentional leadership, intentional living, and really the part of thinking, how big a part that has in your life. I mean, everything is controlled by it. And I hope that makes some sense. I mean, I don't have any questions at this point.
Yes, this is very interesting. Even WT Forum, we are trying to make a good associate with the people, good people like you, and those who are very capable and those who are changing the world. We are trying to associate with them, and definitely we want to listen some good voice. That's why we are arranging these interview sessions, and we want to read. So we do a lot of research. Even any of your book or anything you want to refer in World Talent Economy Forums, definitely we're gonna refer with our audience. I just want to know, like example, you are talking that self-lead, everybody is a leader, and we can lead. Everybody is a leader in different positions, and we have to self-lead by ourselves. My question is that how it works in different level, how actually leadership work, and how we can improve every day. What's the strategy?
Again, a great question, and obviously it shows your experience in having these interviews all the time, because it's amazing. Leadership, again, I'm going to quote my friend and mentor John Maxwell in this. And those who don't know who John Maxwell is, he's the #1 leadership expert in the world, and he's written more than 120 books on the subject. So he knows his stuff. We also have a John Maxwell team where there is now more than 33,000 coaches, trainers, and speakers certified within the team. It's the biggest team in the world. But what he says, he's got some very wise sayings, but one of them that he's well known for is leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Now, people misuse that, but this is influence with people, not over people. And I want to bring this in because people say, okay, how can we get better influence with people if leadership is influence? Because leadership is all about building relationships. See, if you don't have anybody following you and you're not leading, you're merely taking a walk. So we need to find out, how do we build better relationships? Now, we build better relationships, and it also came out in the coaching workshop I did this morning. To build better relationships is you do that by asking better questions. And how do you ask better questions? Is by listening to people. See, we learn a lot more by listening than we learn by talking. So it's always good that we and everybody overestimates their listening power, their own listening power, and underestimates how everybody else can listen. But in when we really find out what listening is really all about, and we do that in values-based leadership. It's actually taking a basic human value every week and talking into this. It's a simple roundtable process that transforms entire countries, by the way. Another story. But so if we then look at that process of building relationships, will make you building more relationships and better relationships will make you a better leader, and that happens everywhere. So leadership is not a position, by the way. Leadership is a behavior. So that means that automatically by that anybody can be a leader. We're not talking about whether you're a leader leading a nation or leading a community or leading a company or leading your family. First of all, we need to go back to self-leadership, because that's where it starts. Because if you then, it does not make sense then if we say that, if leadership is influence and you get that by building better relationships, and then you need to learn to ask better questions, and that you get that by listening better, that these are all skills we need to learn ourselves. But anybody can learn to listen better. Anybody can learn to ask better questions, and anybody can learn to develop themselves. That's why leadership and self-leadership and personal development, there is no, it goes hand in hand. There is no segregating it. So we really need to ask ourselves, what can we do to become better today, so we can be more, do more, and impact more people tomorrow. And that's where our leadership journey starts. I mean, there is a lot of leadership skills they talk about, and they talk about transformational leadership and authentic leadership and relational leadership. There's all these kind of titles. But in the end, how well can you relate with other people, and how can you build that relationship capability so you connect more with more people better? And that is all developing myself. I mean, there is I always talk about a book. It's called The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, which you do a mastermind on as well. But it's all about, you can get this stuff out of a book and start learning it. But again, knowledge itself. I mean, some people think I will develop myself because I'm reading a lot. Yes, reading a lot of positive material like leadership and success stories and successful biographies and personal development, self-help books is better than reading the newspapers by far. But knowledge is not power, because if knowledge was power, that means that every librarian would be skinny, rich, and happy. Because they've got knowledge everywhere. And now with Google, we all have knowledge. We all have our fingertips at knowledge. So we should all be so. But knowledge only becomes more powerful when we take action on that knowledge. So we need to take action. That is power. And I will take it a step further. That when you then take action, massive action on that knowledge you gain, then afterwards, if you actually evaluate every day, you evaluate the action you took that day, because practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So if you keep practicing the wrong thing, you don't become right. You don't become more right. You just become more wrong. So you can avoid that if you have something that you want to do, you start taking action on it, and at the end of the day, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? And what could I improve on? Simple questions. This is not Einstein's theory. These are simple questions. And if you have done things wrong, did that mean you failed during the day? Okay. When you started crawling and you fell and all of a sudden you wanted to stand up and you stood and you were uncertain and you fell down. You fell down. Did that mean you failed? No. That means you actually attempted something and you weren't ready yet, fully aware. But of course, the encouragement of your parents, oh, wonderful, you stood up. That later in life, we don't give each other the same encouragement anymore, because we tell everybody what they do wrong. But at the same time, it was not a failure. When we learned to ride a bike and we fell off, did we say, okay, I'm never going to be able to ride a bike or drive a car, and the first time we stole the car because we jerked it? No. We keep practicing, but we know what we did wrong. And sometimes we have instructors and mentors and coaches and guides with us who tell us, who help us and guide us, you're going in the wrong direction. This is not how it should be, because of the experience they had, of the kind of questions they can ask. Now you get knowledge and you say, okay, now you need to implement it. But even looking back at night, what did I do wrong? And this is called experience. Edison developed the incandescent light, and somebody says 999 or 9,999. It's irrelevant, but he had many times that he found out how not to do it. Were these failures? No, he said, I can now move forward into tomorrow knowing what doesn't work. And he did that so many times until he found out what did work. But that is experience. Experience gives us an opportunity to now gather what we learned and move into the same area more prepared. And there's a book, again, John Maxwell has a book, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And that is the key. Not sometimes you lose, that everybody says. So there is a lot of this kind of stuff we can learn from ourselves to become better leaders, but we need to start connecting with ourselves first. That's why I also do behavior analysis using Dick's profiling. I help profiling people because you need to know yourself. See, I think self-knowledge is so important, especially in leadership, because you can't give what you haven't got. And there's a lot of these quotes, but I mean, it's so true. And people say, be the change you want to see in the world. That came from Gandhi. Now, be the change you want to see in the world, that means is you need to become better if you want to help other people. And the strange thing is, if you help yourself, change yourself, everything around you changes. And that is all part of leadership. So if you can lead yourself into a way forward where you say, you know, every day I'm getting better and better and better, and you know, every day I do something to improve myself, then you will improve, because you need to take massive action on that, and that makes you a better leader. And sometimes you need to know what areas to touch on, and if you get to know yourself because of the of your personal development, is know thyself is something that came from Alan in his books, and you got books from long ago as The Science of Getting Rich and Think and Grow Rich. But Think and Grow Rich is not all about finances. It's thinking. This is where you become rich. Not the rest will come. And money should not be a driver. But I mean, there is so many books, so many people you can touch on to now, and now so much stuff on YouTube and all these other kind of places where we can find out how we can become better ourselves. But you need to have a personal growth plan, because without a personal growth plan, you actually leave everything up to chance. And as I say, growing through life is an everyday thing, not a one-day thing. So if you do that every day, you set yourself aside from all those people who are sitting right now say, oh, but things are so bad and I don't know what to do. No, you haven't thought about what you want to do. And thinking, this is another thing, and that's why I call it thinking for a change. It's not thinking for a change that something needs to do. No, some people need to start thinking for a change, because many people mistake thinking, mental activity, for thinking. And there was a guy called George Bernard Shaw said many years ago, he said 2% of people think, 3% think they think, and 95% of people would rather die than think. And this is why you know, we're coming back to asking questions. You know, we need to, the first person we need to ask better questions from is the person looking in the mirror every morning. When we start asking that person better questions and then get better answers, but asking questions, even in Google, you only get answers to the questions you ask. So if you ask better quality questions, you get better quality answers. And we need to start thinking more into those kind of things. What does it require from us to become better leaders? Whether it's locally or nationally or internationally, what does it take, and how can we do that? Who do we need to involve? Maybe we need to get ourselves a coach to help and guide us, because coaching is all about drawing information from within. So they help you to draw out what's already in you. Everybody, they don't know yet the limit to the powers we've got in here. Yet most people act as if we're living in a limited society, that we cannot do things. So I mean, but it begins there, and there is so much more that we can and must do. So we should start, if they haven't proven yet what our limitations are, we should start doing everything as if there is no limitation. Now, I don't mean jumping off a building because maybe gravity doesn't work this time. That is stupidity. But at least start doing things as if there is no limits, and then when we do things wrong, learn from that experience and move forward.
This is very interesting discussions. You are bringing the behavioral science, and the most important thing is how leadership grow in different part of the world. I want to go more detail. At present world, we have a lot of technology right now. Right. When I woke up, I actually engage with social media. I engage with a lot of technology and other things. So when we grow, actually we have to interact with the technology. So in that situations, how actually leadership and your behavior science and this kind of things work when technology and human being we are interact together, and there are also many positive and negative issues. What's your advice as a world-class coach? Yes.
Well, yeah, again, another great question, and it's also something I've talked into quite often because we all hear these different things now. Social distancing. The first time I heard that, I said, you know something, we started social distancing ourselves ever since we got one of these mobile phones because we are technology was driving us apart. And I said a long time ago, I said at some point we need to get back to humanness because my partner Arti, she's also got an organization called Celebrating Humanity International, which is run for 23 years about diversity and inclusion globally. And one of the things she says, at the level of respect, everybody is equal, and all people really want is to be valued, honored, and respected as a human being. Now, if we could do that simple thing already, and we don't need technology for that, but people use technology to talk each other down. Anonymous people, some quite often are not even courageous enough to say who they are, so they hide behind an avatar or something to call each other names and to be negative to each other. I always say, if you have nothing good to say about somebody, don't say anything at all, because the problem is we are so judgmental in this world, and we have this to really reach out to people we don't even know, to make comments that make no sense because we don't know these people, but we keep given negative comments. There is, as you know as well, there is plenty communication at the moment about lockdown, about social distancing, about masks, about vaccines, and all that. And there is, of course, everybody's got an idea and a perception. Perception is like a belly button. Everybody's got one, and some people should keep them covered. But it's so strange. And I always say, I have I talk my truth from my perceptions and the studying I do continually. And whether it's right or wrong for other people, we don't have to agree on everything. But when I do a Facebook Live or whether I talk to people, I said the one thing I expect from you, I would love to have discussion. You can have discussions with other people below on my Facebook page. But the minute you start using foul language, you start the derogatory language to another person, I will block you. And I don't care if you're my friend, I will block you. Because the one thing we need to do is, you might not like everybody, you might not like everybody's opinion, but we should actually at least respect each other in life. And social media has brought that much further. And also, we also should make sure that if we have a different opinion, rather than just look and find people who've got the same opinion, Stephen Covey said, understand before being understood. So that means is rather than try to find other people and sit in a cluster together, those who think the same as you, you don't learn from that. Find out why other people think different and what they think, and then what is their story behind it. Try to understand. Maybe you might just be wrong. Maybe sometimes I am wrong. In fact, I know I'm sometimes wrong. But I also need to before I can say that, I need to understand where the other side comes from. And I see some derogatory remarks out there, and I thought there is no need for that. That has no place. So now you talk about the digital age, and I said many years ago, I said at some point we need to go back to our human touch, because the digital age, what it forgets is more and more people are getting lonely, because sending a message or saying you've got 5,000 Facebook friends is not the way we are. We need to connect on a human level. So we can be socially distanced, but we need to emotionally connect with each other. And I said this before, and I listened to somebody, they say the fifth industrial revolution will be going back to the human touch. I hope it does. But I think also this period has been a reset button, because more and more people now are connecting with each other using the media. So I think it was, in a way, divine intervention if it was, but the media, the digital age, and human connections come together, because now we need to, since lockdown, we needed to connect with, and we must connect with people. We must let them know that they care. We must let them know that they're not alone. There is people who dying of loneliness. People are committing suicide because they're lonely. Because I mean, even people who are now in places where we can't visit them because of their age and their immune deficiency, and they now feel that they don't understand, especially the older generation. They might not understand that people don't come and visit them when they came every week or so, but at least to be able to connect with people. And I said it's wonderful that we are connecting with people again. But if you take it, there was a survey done by LinkedIn at the beginning of this year, and I also wrote an article about this on the strength of that. And there was in 18 countries and about 7,000 people, CEO level, C-level and above, and they asked them what is needed most in organizations from now moving forward. And it might surprise you, but I mean, there is people who are technically oriented. They might think, all the different technology and all that kind of stuff. Now, coding and cloud computing and things like that, they were in the 7 and 8% level. But what was the top 3 answers were leadership, creativity, and communication. Now, these are all soft skills. And it didn't surprise me. But it was, and when I wrote the article, a lot of people were so surprised because what people said as well, the digital age and all the technology is changing so fast. We need to keep learning, unlearning, and relearning, that we need to do all the time anyway. And sometimes some of us need to unlearn an awful lot of stuff so we can actually get with the program. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to be our own best encouragers. But it is changing so fast that we can't keep up with it. So the soft skills are the things we will always need. See, there is also a saying that many organizations make the mistake that they still hire for quality of capabilities, and they fire for character. And so is it then not better to hire for character? And hire the people who have the leadership skills, because character is something you've already got inside you. That's your behavior and the way you act. Do you have integrity? Are you honest? Are you got a better attitude? Are you willing to develop people? Are you willing to ask for forgiveness? Are you willing to show some restraint and provide hope for other people, as well as work on your own self-esteem? These are all traits in your character, in your ethics and your principles, that when you bring them to a company, those are more important, because those you don't learn overnight. Those you don't learn in a training session. You can become aware of them, and then you need to practice them. And whether you can change habits, of course. If you can find out the habits that don't serve you anymore. Yeah.
Yes, so I have some audience response from my audience. Humara Tanzila, she said, "Hello, sir. Thank you for your time. We learn and enjoy this session. Agree with you." So I think they are enjoying your sessions. Noor Fazreen, she said, "Hello, sir. Nice discussion. Are leaders born or made? What is your opinion, sir?" Like she just want to know, leadership are born or leadership actually create. So you are best in leaderships and coaching. So what's your opinion?
Well, yes, it is very simple, really, because there is so many people say leaders are born. At the same time, those people who believe that will actually wash their hands and say, "It's not for me. I wasn't born for one of them." And the only thing I can say about being born is we're all born screaming, filling nappies, and knowing nothing. So that's the same for every one of us. So that is the way we're born. What will happen, though, is some people are in a more conducive environment from after they're born, but leaders are made, because everything a leader has are skills and habits they can improve on. See, the same as in sports. If you are already given a football when you're 3 years old and you start kicking a ball about, you might be much better at it than somebody who only starts when they're 12 or 15. Now, leadership is the same. If you are in an environment where you build your character early on, where values are important in your family life, because most leadership around the world is failing because of lack of values. And that's why we always say we provide leadership solutions, and if we haven't got a solution, we create one, but we listen to a client first, because one size doesn't fit all. But I also say to them, we can give you all kinds of fancy leadership solutions, whether it's a one-day program, a year program, whatever. But at the end, you need to build your leaderships on a foundation of values, because that is the foundation of all leadership. And if everybody's a leader, everybody needs a foundation of values. Sometimes we need to go back to basic human values. But if then you are in an environment where it is more conducive to, so like some people are born in poverty, but they can lead in poverty. I mean, not every leadership is not I said it's not a title, it's a behavior. So you can lead whether you're poor, you can lead whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Indian, whether your culture is different, whether your age, whether your gender. Anybody and everybody is leading. The question is just how much we're leading. And some people don't want to lead big. They are quite happy to lead in their family or to lead in the community or lead their sports team. But leaders certainly are not born. They are made. And that means when you realize that leaders are made, find out the leadership skills you want so you can develop them, because we can change habits. See, some people say to change a habit takes 21 days. Some people say it even 66 days. So what do I say? Do them for 90 days. You'll cover all possibilities. And by the time you do something for 90 days, you will have changed that habit. And for habits to change, you need to find out what doesn't serve you. What is not important? See, when we take it all back to thinking, and it started on thinking for a change. Socrates actually said, I cannot teach anybody anything, I can only make them think. That was Socrates, and he knew some stuff, a guy. But if you really look at the very basics, why are we telling ourselves consistently that we cannot do things? Based on what? Now, there's a few things it's based on, because people who know you tell you that if you want to do something new, they know you. Who do you think you are? You'll never be able to do that. So we get the negative influences from the outside all the time. So that's one part. But the other part is we look at the results we've got right now, so far, and we know the things we haven't been able to do so far. Now, I'm going to take that a little bit back, because why? And it is because of the way we used to think. See, if thoughts become habits, so what happens with your thoughts? Thoughts come into your head. You can't stop all the thoughts coming into your head, but you can control what you do with them. Because eventually those thoughts, see, until age 7, we don't really have much of a conscious mind. Everything comes in. There is no filters really, because we learn everything. That's why the first 7 years are very important in a person's life. And how we help them. But that doesn't mean the rest is not important, but everything soaks in. Now, as an adult, we can actually distinguish. We've got a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. So when we have thoughts coming in, we can decide what we do with them, as long as we become aware of them. So if these are negative thoughts, we can banish them. We can, you see, sometimes some of us need to have some spring cleaning of all these negative thoughts we've got in our mind. And I call it a spring cleaning, and it doesn't need to be spring. It can be any time of the year, but clean those things out. And that means you need to make room for more positive stuff to go in. So if you have negative thoughts, become aware of them and stop them. We can stop those. But if you let that go on more and more, they sink into our subconscious. Now they're in the subconscious. We can't. No, you can't. Who do you think you are? I'm a loser. I never do anything right. I mean, and then you don't do anything right. See, I knew it, but you talk yourself into that. So now you need to actually think about what happens next. So now in your subconscious, that's where things happen automatically, like breathing and blinking your eyes and your heart beating. Everything is natural. But we don't have to think about all these things, because then we really have to think a lot every day. But the automatic system. So now from there, we actually start doing things because of what we know, what we have soaked in. And then we get results. Now, the ones where we fail, why do we fail? Because we don't believe it's possible. Now, nothing is impossible. You all matter, and you are all possible. Get that in. You are worth it. You are creations, all unique and all with a purpose and a passion. Sometimes you need to find out what it is. Find your why. Simon Sinek, a great start. But so now what happens is your thoughts come into your head, they sink down. Now you look at your results and say, I can't do that. Why is that? Because the thoughts you've had so far, and most of them in the past, because it takes time to program that. So what do you need to do if you want different results? Does that not mean that you need to start thinking different? See, if you want different results, you need to do different thinking. If you do the same you've always done, you always get what you've always had. So you need to start thinking different. Now you start thinking different, and it's not an overnight success, of course. People who say overnight successes don't exist really. It takes time, but we only see what happens all of a sudden. But now you need to find out, if I wanted to do that, what would I need to gain? What skills, what thinking would have to change for me to do that? So the questions should start being different. So, and that means that you need to start developing yourself. You need to start thinking different. You need to start thinking. Some people just need to start thinking for a change, but thinking for change as well in the other way. So now you get thoughts. The thoughts, different thoughts become different habits, and you get a different result. And it all starts with a thought. So I think that is very important for people. If you start that's why personal development is so important, because that's where the thinking changes. And I always say, I showed it the other day. I had a cup, and I say, what personal development really is it's like a cup. Every time something negative happened, like COVID-19, a hole in the cup. Then somebody says something to you that you don't like, a hole in the cup because you're negative now. You didn't pass all your exams the way you wanted, a hole in the cup. And you get the idea. Every time you look in the news, something bad happened, you think negative. And the cup's full of holes. Now I don't need to pour water in it. You know what's going to happen. So you can't fill your own cup anymore because you drain it all through negativity. Now, what personal development will do for you, you start filling those holes up. But not only that, you get another cup, another sleeve round it, and you start making sure that now your cup will hold water. Now your cup will hold positivity. Your cup will hold hope. Your cup will hold the kind of self-esteem that you need, because self-development is what we need in every area of life, because as you said already, things are changing so fast around the world that we can't keep up. So they say that more than 63% of youth that go to school for the first time now will do a job by the time they come out that doesn't even exist yet. So I say to people, okay, what are you going to study for? I mean, things are changing so rapidly. Are you studying something that might not exist by the time you're done, especially if you're going to do 4 or 5 years at university as well? And this possibility. We don't know. But so there is uncertainty and anxiety and depression and all this kind of stuff on youngsters now as well, even more so in this age. But one thing that you can always take with you, and when you look at that LinkedIn profile, the leadership, creativity, and communication, and that's all about building yourself. So if you can build yourself every single day, then you will come out of college, out of university, you come full of self-esteem. You can carry yourself. You take that with you. And if you have two people with the same qualifications, the one that really carries themselves well, the one that can communicate well, the one that can lead well, the one that's got the characteristics that you need rather than just the skills, that one should get the job. Because that is so. We need to build each other. We need to build our youth. In Bangladesh, as well as you said, and in many areas, 50-60% of the youth, and that's people below 35. So there is a huge amount of young power. We also need to help them in their entrepreneurial journey. How can we help you to get your idea across and develop it with you and for you, and give guidance and coaching and entrepreneurship and training, so you become the person you want to be, the person you need to be the leader, to be that change you want to see in the world, to be the person that is worth the journey you're supposed to walk.
Yes, this is very interesting right now, that we have to work with youth and we have to change their mindset. We have to take a lot of positive initiative. And yes, now there are many challenging environment and many more things is happening. So we have to think the future strategy. We have to think about the crisis management. We have to think about the present challenging situation. Now, actually, many things happening around the world, but we have to be very focused. So many people ask me, even World WTE forums, and many young people always ask me that focus is very important, always we say, but what's the practical procedure? Is there any scientific procedure and anything like people can keep focused and get more result? Because now too much of things, when we open up the social media, too much of things, when we open up the internet, too much of things. So what we do these things, that things, many more things, many challenges. So what's the way of thinking when we do just focus on getting some good result? What's your advice on that?
Yes, thank you, Sharif, again for another great question. And this, they call it the weapon of mass distraction. because that's what's happening. As you said, you know, we got so many things that we can't do even now. I mean, if you see the amount of free programs that you can get now because of COVID, and it's all free webinars, free this, you can attend them all. But in the end, many of them are only worth the price you pay for it. See, we need to, when we need to be focused, we also need to know what our purpose is. We don't need to be told to focus when we live in our passion, when we live in our purpose, and you know, as I said, when the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you discover why. Once you discover what what your real passion is, what you know, what it comes from your heart, not just from your mind, and you can combine them, and you're gonna start doing something you really love in your life. Then focus is become so. You don't need to be told, hey, you need to do this. The reason most people aren't focused because they have no direction in life. So if you find out what you really want to do, I mean, a kid will never have to be told to get up at Christmas Day for the open his presents. A family doesn't have to be told that they need to get up tomorrow morning because we're going on holiday. You know, but unfortunately, most people live a life that they don't really like. They say more than 75% live a life, do a job that they don't really want, but they're prepared to do it for 45 years, which is not possible anymore for most jobs, and then look back and wish they had done more, and it's not spend time at the office. So focus is something that you need to take away all the distractions. You need to set yourself a game plan. If it is something you need to do anyway, whether you like it or not, get it done. You know, always there is a book called Eat That Frog, and it says, you know, if you've got two frogs, eat the ugliest one first, which basically says that we always try to do the easy things first, and then we can't focus because we run out of time, or we run out of excuses even. But 80-20 rule. It's the Pareto principle. People can look into that because it's very important, but focus on the things that you need to focus on first, the most important things. Get them out of the way, and then you can spend maybe a little bit of time on social media and that, but set all the distractions. Put this on silent, put it far enough away from you that you cannot touch it, and work on what you need to work on. So you need to get a game plan, and you don't work too long. You know, they say maximum 90 minutes, then take a break. Maybe give yourself a reward. You've done 90 minutes of focus now. Maybe I can spend 10, 15 minutes on social media and whatever. You know, but reward yourself for focus. Because too often we beat ourselves up that we didn't do things, but we don't reward ourselves when we do things well. So if you need to do it, reward yourself. But shorter intervals. Don't think that you need to sit 8 hours in a row behind a laptop and you only get 3 hours worth of work because you do get distracted. 1 hour, 90 minutes. Whatever suits you, do that, and do all you can in that hour and 90 minutes. Then take a break, and then do another maybe hour 90 minutes, and do a few of them a day if that's what you need. Maybe 3 or 4 if need be, but take breaks in between. But know what's important, write down what's important, put a game plan together, and it becomes so much easier when you follow your passion. When you follow what really interests you, what you really want to do, things become so much easier because you don't need to be told. But you need to be told, and time is never an issue. When people, especially over the last 4 months, if they haven't done something that they should have been doing, finish the project, learn a new skill, learn a new language, do something to improve themselves, time was never an issue. What the issue is you had no discipline or you had no purpose. And those usually go together. If you have purpose, you don't need discipline. You'll create discipline. And then the other side of it, I mean, let people also not wait until they get motivated to do something. That's another fallacy. See, sometimes even if you have a passion, you need the motivation, and you wait for outside, like amazing motivational speakers like Les Brown and Edward Thomas and these kind of people, and you wait for motivation. But what you really should do is begin. No, do it now. Done is better than perfect. So if you start doing things, at some point you like it so much that you get motivated to do it. So the motivation comes after you start. You know, they also say that if you find your passion, you're prepared to do what you really love so much that you would do it for free, but yet you do it so well that people are willing to pay you for it. Focus, game plan, and start there.
Okay, this is very, very interesting discussions. Even our audience, Mohammad Tanvir Ahmed Sharif, he said, thanks for your valuable times, and many audience actually observing your discussions. My last questions to you, because this is 1 hour of session, but how you moving? Maybe maybe we have to take some few minutes extra. Okay, okay, that's the point I'm actually discussing in the beginning of the session. My last question, like now we have a competition in between human and AI. So AI and human has a competition, then technology I said that integrated with the workforce and many more things. What's the preparation we should take? You are talking about young people. So what the young people should take preparations when AI integrated with the workforce, and there is a chance maybe many people will lose their job, or what you talking that if we do a lot of creative work, leadership work, and the communication skills, maybe it will be helpful. But what's the future preparation the young generation should take in this present situation?
Again, of course, that's it. I mean, we know that things are changing faster and faster, but a wonderful question, and it happens a lot, and that's why there is so much uncertainty. But the one thing we can always do is the deciding what we want to do now. We see we can plan for the future, but we need to live now. So we need to find out. Yes, some jobs will be taken by robots and all that kind of stuff. There's many jobs that can never be taken by robots, like a motivational and inspirational speaker, a coach or a mentor or something like that. Those kind of things will always be needed, and the human touch, the human connection is needed more and more every single day. As more technology becomes available, more people become lonely. So we need to be prepared that we will do more than one job in our lifetime, that we will do probably 4 or 5 jobs in our lifetime as things are changing faster, maybe even more. But now we need to decide what we will do and what we want to do in the near future, and then keep developing ourselves. Because as I said, we can't, a different skill is always, you can always train yourself. You need to be willing to change and willing to go with the change as well, but be ahead of the change if you keep developing yourself. But for the rest, do what you want to do, find out what you're passionate, and at some point, always look at the future and see how things are developing. But don't be scared of the future, because it might not be the job you always wanted to do. Keep your mind open, be willing to change, and make sure that you do what you want to do now. And what is the best job in the future? Is it something in technology or AI or whatever? Possibly. But that doesn't mean that's the only thing, because don't just look at the money side, look at what your heart wants to do. And there's always a job for something that you're passionate about. And if it changes, you're not a tree, change. So you can always move, but make sure that you move at least with the times, if not ahead of the time. But make sure you are willing to change whenever it's necessary, because those people who will conquer the world are not the ones who have got the knowledge and bring it forward. No, those people who are willing to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I think that is what the youth needs to do as well as the adults. We need to learn, then we need to unlearn some stuff, and we need to be willing to relearn. And that by building your self-esteem as well, by building yourself, it'll become easier, because you are sure about yourself that you can do all these things.
Mhm. Yes, thank you. This is actually very, very positive discussions, and hopefully our audience will enjoy these sessions. Even we will try to learn more things from you. You are amazing coach, and hopefully World Talent Economy Forums and your organization, we can change human life. And from the beginning, this is our commitment. We will do something positive for the human being. So people from around the world like you, they're joining, they are interacting with us, and they are trying to contribute, and we want to give them, everybody, we want to give them thanks, and especially for today's sessions, I want to give you thanks for your very, very important input for our like our leadership skills, for our communication skills, especially for our behaviors and this kind of things. Hopefully by this way we will change many human lives, and we will invite you in the futures, and hopefully we will collaborate together, and we will do many positive work together. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Sharif, as well, and it's a pleasure to be on your platform, and also really thank you for all the amazing work your organization does, and I look forward to future collaborations as well, and I wish everybody an amazing rest of their day today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.